We have our final storyteller of the evening. She's been so very patient, and thank you for being patient with us for this wonderful evening. She's told here before, and she has a great tale to tell, so please give it up for Terri Brzezinski.
Terri! Hello. Terri B! Terri B! Dr. Barhaman said to us, "This isn't going to be a walk in the park." And he was right. Unless you're talking about a horrifying amusement park, like the Shadow of Death Park. You know that psalm, the one that says, "The Lord is my shepherd. Yea, though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I will fear no evil." Well, that's what cancer was like for my husband, Paul, and me. It was a gruesome walk through a macabre theme park, and quite frankly, we had a lot to fear. We met Dr. Barhaman shortly after we had purchased our admission tickets to this grisly carnival. Our first stop was the Hematology Oncology Consultants tent. This was the starting point for all the attractions. Outside the tent was a sign that read, "You must be this high to ride this ride." So Paul handed over his test results and medical reports, and they were reviewed, and he was allowed to clear to proceed. Inside the oncology tent, the lighting was soft and warm, and overstuffed recliners lined the walls. And right off the bat, the receptionist asked us to do the impossible. "Please make yourself comfortable." There was a spotlight illuminating the center of the room, and into it stepped Dr. Fari Barhaman. He was a soft-spoken Indian gentleman of medium stature. He wore oversized round glasses that framed his kind brown eyes. His short black hair was flecked with gray, hinting at the years of wisdom that he carried. And his hairline was receding, gradually revealing the top of his pate that housed his brilliant mind. He introduced himself as our guide, our shepherd. Dr. Barhaman said that this journey was not going to be easy, but he assured us he would be there with us every step of the way. There was an aura about him that radiated compassion and genuine concern. The essence of Dr. Barhaman was comfort and hope. So with Dr. Barhaman at our side, we were ready to embark on this journey. We stopped at the entrance at the fortune teller's booth to find out how long we would be in the park. And her prediction for Paul was that he had 3 or 4 months left to live. Her words sent us careening down the first hill of the roller coaster ride that would carry us through the entire park, racing down hills of anxiety and fear. And then Dr. Barhaman pulled us aside and told us that anyone who gives you a prognosis is foolish. He said, "Nobody knows what will happen here. Everybody is different. There are many treatment options out there. We will do our best in treating Paul, and we'll see what happens." And with that, he set our car on the path to the top of the next hill to comfort and hope. The amusement park had rides like the chemo tilt-a-whirl, where the treatment spun Paul around so hard he was nauseated and throwing up. This particular chemo ride, oxaliplatin, literally sent shivers up Paul's spine. It causes neuropathy and numbness and tingling, and an extreme sensitivity to cold. Paul had to wear gloves when he was taking anything out of the refrigerator, and he couldn't eat ice cream anymore. One of the scariest things about this chemo was that the side effect of nerve damage could become permanent. So essentially, you could end up paralyzed and with cancer. Paul exited this ride every 2 weeks, feeling weak and walking on wobbly legs. And then Dr. Barhaman would come in and assure us that he would stop the ride before any permanent nerve damage was done, and he reminded us that this ride was the most promising form of treatment for colon cancer. And our hope returned. The next ride we tried was the cliffhanger. This is where you have CT scans done every 8 weeks to see if the treatment is working. You're strapped into the car and you're scanned as you slowly ascend to the top of the park. And then you wait for the sudden drop of the test results. The drop can be exhilarating. The tumors have shrunk to half their size. Whee! Or it can be gut-wrenching. The tumors are bigger. Ugh. If this was the case, Dr. Barhaman would acknowledge that maybe the cancer was advancing, but he would also say this could be a good sign. The tumors will swell when they are under attack. And with that, he set our roller coaster car back on the track of hope. The park also had a fun house with mirrors that held ugly, distorted reflections, like when Paul was on the chemo Erbitux. After his first infusion of this drug, his face turned beet red, and he developed a horrible acne rash. Now, not only was he battling cancer, but he had to do it while reliving one of the nasty parts of his adolescence. And again, Dr. Barhaman came in, comforted Paul, saying, the more intense the side effects were, the more effective the treatment was on the cancer. He actually had us cheering on, more acne. As we wandered through this park, Dr. Barhaman always provided us with instructions that were clear and easy to follow, so we wouldn't get lost along the way. Like the time Paul had his first CT scan, we went to the hospital to have the test done, and after being scanned, Paul felt so good that we decided to stop at the garden store on our way home and pick up a couple of 50-pound bags of manure that Paul was going to mix into the soil. When we got home, Paul started unloading the bags, and I went into the house to answer the phone that was ringing. It was Dr. Barhaman calling, and he had the test results back, and it was mostly good news, except the test showed a blood clot in the artery in Paul's groin. Then Dr. Barhaman gave me some of those very clear and easy to follow instructions. Have Paul come into the house immediately. Keep him as still as possible while he arranged the emergency room admission. Once there, they started Paul on blood thinners and put a filter in his artery to catch any other clots that may form. And then came Dr. Barhaman's standard message of hope. The blood clot is actually a good sign, he said. When tumors die, they can throw off clots. So I guess now we're cheering for more clots? Dr. Barhaman had an amazing gift for finding the silver lining in every dark cloud that followed us through the park. And when we finally run out of chemo rides to ride, we ended up playing the radiation whack-a-mole game. This is liver-directed therapy game where the doctor inserts a tube directly into the tumor and whacks the tumor by seeding it with radiation pellets. And then the tumor would disappear. Unfortunately, every time a tumor disappeared, another would pop up somewhere else. Whack the tumor on Paul's liver, and a tumor would pop up on his adrenal gland. Whack that tumor, and another would pop up on his liver again. We'd whack, and they'd pop, whack, and pop. Finally, we had to stop whacking. we'd run out of the tickets to play any of the games. And suddenly, all around the park, the rides were powering down and all the lights were turning off. And I was left wandering the midway without Paul. But Dr. Barhaman was still there with me. And he hugged me and told me what an honor it had been to guide us through this park. He reminded me that even though we had lost that game, really, we had won the day. With Dr. Barhaman's knowledge and compassion, we had beaten the odds. We had turned 3 to 4 months into 3 amazing years. And I walked away with the best prize of all. I had the privilege of having Dr. Fari Barhaman in my life. And my prayer for all of you is that if you ever find yourself walking through that valley of the shadow of death, that you have a Fari Barhaman to shepherd you to. Thank you.